Okay, so apparently democracy is now just a suggestion and Pierre Poilievre is not happy about it. Like, really not happy. We're talking full-on I need to speak to the manager energy, except the manager is Mark Carney and the complaint department is closed for the holidays. Fresh off Michael Ma's dramatic floor crossing that put the Liberals one seat shy of a majority, Poilievre came out swinging, accusing Carney of wheeling and dealing like he's hosting a political game show instead of running the country. And honestly, the salt levels are off the charts, which makes for absolutely spectacular political theater. So grab your popcorn because this is about to get messy. Pierre Poilievre stepped in front of the cameras Friday looking like someone just stole his lunch money, except instead of lunch money it's his party members, and instead of a schoolyard bully it's the Prime Minister with a welcoming smile and apparently very persuasive talking points. His accusation? That Mark Carney is trying to manipulate and engineer himself a majority government that Canadians denied him at the ballot box. Those are fighting words, folks. That's not political disagreement, that's basically calling the Prime Minister a cheater, and we are here for the drama. Let's break down what Poilievre actually said because this is grade A, premium political shade. He claims Carney is wheeling and dealing his way to a majority, which paints this picture of backroom negotiations, promises of committee positions, maybe a ministerial role here, a fancy title there, all designed to lure Conservative MPs across the floor like they're following a trail of parliamentary breadcrumbs. And you know what? He's probably not entirely wrong. That's how politics works, people. It's not pretty, it's not noble, but it's the game, and Mark Carney is apparently playing it very well. But here's where Poilievre really leans into it. He says Carney is trying to concentrate wealth and power in his hands at the expense of higher grocery and housing costs for Canadians. That's a masterclass in political messaging right there because he's not just complaining about process, he's tying it directly to kitchen table issues. He's saying, while you're struggling to afford eggs and rent, Mark Carney is busy playing parliamentary Tetris to consolidate power. Whether that's fair or not is debatable, but it's effective messaging, and in politics, that's what counts. The real kicker though, the part that probably stings the most for Poilievre, is that Michael Ma was criticizing the government until literally 2 days before he crossed the floor. 2 days. That's like your friend trash-talking a restaurant on Tuesday and then posting Instagram stories about their amazing dinner there on Thursday. The whiplash is real. Poilievre pointed this out specifically because it undermines the whole "I've been having doubts for a while" narrative. If you were bashing the Liberals 48 hours ago, the sudden conversion feels less like a crisis of conscience and more like an opportunistic career move. Now, Poilievre's argument about respecting the will of the Canadian people is interesting because technically, floor crossing is completely legal and part of our parliamentary system. MPs are elected as individuals, not party robots, and they have every right to switch allegiances if they feel their values no longer align with their party. That's the theory anyway. In practice, it feels sketchy because voters made their choices based on party affiliation, platforms, and leadership. When you vote for a Conservative MP, you're not just voting for that person, you're voting for Conservative policies and Conservative leadership. So when that MP switches teams, it does feel like a bait and switch, even if it's technically within the rules. But let's talk about the elephant in the room, or should I say the defectors leaving the room. This is the second Conservative MP to join the Liberals in just over a month. That's not random bad luck, that's a trend. When one person leaves, it's an anomaly. When two people leave, it's a problem. Poilievre can spin this as Carney playing dirty tricks, but he also has to look in the mirror and ask why his MPs are even entertaining these conversations in the first place. People don't usually abandon ship when everything's going great. They leave when they see problems, when they don't feel heard, when they think the other side has better answers or better prospects. The optics for the Conservatives are brutal here. Every time an MP crosses the floor, it raises questions about party unity, about whether the message is resonating, about whether the leadership has control. Poilievre can blame Carney all he wants, and there's definitely some truth to the idea that the Liberals are actively recruiting, but at some point you have to ask why the recruitment is working. Why are Conservative MPs susceptible to these overtures? What's missing on the Conservative side that makes jumping ship seem like a good idea? From Carney's perspective, this is genius-level political maneuvering. He's playing chess while everyone else is playing checkers. He didn't get a majority in the last election, fine, but the rules don't say he can't build one afterward. If Conservative MPs are willing to cross the floor, that's not manipulation, that's opportunity. That's politics. It's ruthless, it's calculating, but it's also perfectly legal and arguably smart strategy. Why go through another expensive, exhausting election campaign when you can just convince a couple of opposition MPs that your vision is better? But Poilievre's counter-argument has weight too. There's something that feels inherently undemocratic about building a majority through defections rather than earning it through votes. The Canadian people delivered a minority government verdict, which is supposed to force cooperation, compromise, and coalition building. When you engineer your way to a majority through floor crossings, you're technically following the rules but arguably violating the spirit of what voters intended. It's like finding a loophole in a contract. Sure, it's legal, but is it right? The quote about locking up criminals and keeping communities safe is classic Poilievre messaging. He's reminding everyone what Ma was elected to do, painting the defection as a betrayal not just of the party but of the promises made to constituents. When Ma ran as a conservative, he presumably campaigned on conservative values, shook hands with conservative supporters, made conservative promises. Now he's a liberal, and all those people who voted for him because he was conservative are left wondering what just happened. That's the legitimacy question that doesn't go away, no matter how many times the Liberals say everything's above board. What makes this especially juicy is the timing. We're heading into what could be a politically volatile period, and being one seat away from a majority means every single vote matters. The Liberals are going to be hunting for that final seat like it's the Holy Grail, and the Conservatives are going to be in full defensive mode, probably requiring their MPs to take blood oaths of loyalty or whatever the political equivalent is. The pressure on every single opposition MP just went through the roof because everyone's watching to see who might be next. Here's what's really fascinating though. This isn't just about two MPs changing teams. This is about the narrative battle happening right now over what kind of government Canada should have. Poilievre wants to frame this as an illegitimate power grab, as a wealthy elite manipulating the system to concentrate power while regular Canadians suffer. Carney wants to frame it as pragmatic MPs recognizing that his steady, practical approach is what the country needs. Both narratives have elements of truth, and which one resonates more with Canadians will shape the political landscape going forward. The grocery and housing costs line is particularly smart from Poilievre because it ties everything back to the cost of living crisis that's dominating Canadian political discourse. He's essentially saying, while you can't afford to feed your family, Mark Carney is playing parliamentary games. That connects emotionally in a way that abstract arguments about parliamentary procedure never could. It makes the floor crossing feel selfish and out of touch, even if the policy implications are more complicated than that. So where does this leave us? The Liberals are one seat away from a majority, probably making phone calls and scheduling coffee meetings with every opposition MP who's ever expressed even mild frustration. The Conservatives are in damage control mode, circling the wagons, and probably investigating whether they need better snacks at their caucus meetings to compete with whatever the Liberals are offering. And Canadians are watching this whole spectacle wondering when anyone's going to focus on actually solving problems instead of playing political musical chairs. If you're still watching this, you clearly care about understanding what's really happening in Canadian politics beyond the soundbites. Hit that subscribe button because we're dropping multiple videos daily analyzing every twist in this ongoing saga. Like this video if you appreciate coverage that doesn't pick sides but calls out the game when we see it. Drop a comment and tell me, is Poilievre right that this is manipulation? Or is Carney just playing smart politics? And stick around because trust me, with the Liberals one seat away from a majority, this story is about to get even more interesting. This is Canadian Insights, where we break down the politics so you don't have to. Catch you in the next one.